want to say a special welcome to everybody joining us online this weekend. Glad that you guys are with us on this holiday weekend, and to you guys as well. Thanks for being here. We're in week 3 of a series that I started a couple weeks ago. We're finishing up. This will be the final week of the series, and it's called Infectious, and we're talking about not infections that you would get in your body, although we talked about in the first week what the medical definition, what that looks like, that it's an invasion, and not only an invasion, infection is an invasion, but it's a multiplication of something that you do not want in your body, right? And of course, we know what infections can do on our body, but what we've been talking about in this series is how we can infect people with our words as well. That not only can you get an infection in your body, but that you actually have power. I have power in the words that I speak to other people, that I can choose to infect people for the good, and I can make a positive impact on their lives, or I can choose to infect them for the bad. And so if you've been a part of this series, we've been talking about this idea. Week 1 was about complaining and how we just live in a society that people love to complain. I love to complain. I mean, we want to complain about anything and everything, right? Like from the weather to, the internet to, a lot of first world problems, right? I mean, we complain about so many things. And what we talk about in that week series is, and that weekend is this idea of changing your perspective, that really God is so good. He's so faithful. We have so much blessing in our life that we can change our perspective, or if you can actually do something about the thing you're complaining about, then instead of just complaining, actually step up to the plate and do something about it. Last weekend we talked about the idea of lying and how we can infect people with the words that we speak as far as lies, and how actually it's the devil's plan. If you don't know this, his number one scheme, his number one plan to get you separated from God is that he wants to get you to lie to other people. He wants to get you to lie to yourself. And eventually what he wants to do is he wants to get you to actually live a lie. And if you remember the ping pong illustration, we talked about how God wants to fill your life up and how he wants to remove the lies from your life, and that you got to just continually spend time with him and find the truth, because the truth will set us free. And all of us know this, that our words can be either positive or they can be negative. And we all know that the words that are spoken, or the words that we speak, or maybe even words that have been spoken to us, they have an enormous impact on our lives. An enormous impact. I mean, many of you can think of a time in your own life where somebody said something to you, and maybe it was all the way back when you were in middle school, maybe it was when you were in high school, maybe it was 10, 15 years ago, maybe it was just a year ago, a couple of days ago. And those words impacted you to an amazing extent, beyond what anybody could ever imagine. You still remember that moment when your father, when your mother, when your friend, when somebody that you know, they spoke words to you that impacted your life, and it could be for a good thing. But also we know times in our lives where words have been spoken to us that have impacted us in a not so positive way. When I was a freshman in high school, I felt a calling on my life. I really felt like God was asking me to go into ministry and to be a pastor. I can't explain exactly what I felt, but I just remember feeling like God was saying, you need to go into ministry. And actually, I'd rededicated my life. I was living so far away from God, and rededicated my life and felt called to ministry. And as one conversation I was having with a guy who was a Christian, who was actually a guy who I viewed as a mentor in my life, I was having a conversation about a conflict that was happening in my life. And I remember he looked me in the eyes and he said, Joel, you want to go into ministry, right? And I said, yeah, I do. And he says, if you act like this, you'll never make it in ministry, Joel. You're never going to make it. And I know he really meant well. I think he was trying to help me through this circumstance that I was in. But I have to tell you, I walked away from that conversation only hearing one thing: Joel, you're never going to make it in ministry. And I spent about a year of my life, if not more, contemplating, is this really God's calling for my life? Now luckily, I believe that I got through that, and I walked through that. And honestly, I don't have a grudge against this guy. He's honestly a great guy. He's a man of God. He wants to serve God. I don't have any negative feelings towards him. But those words, they impacted me. Words have power to infect us for either good or for bad. And what I've kind of been contending in this entire series that we're finishing up this weekend is that we should use our words to impact and make a difference good. So instead of complaining, choose to change your perspective, that we have so many blessings in life. Instead of telling lies, that we should look for the truth, because the truth is actually what sets us free. And then this week I want to finish this up, and I want to talk about gossip, the words that we speak in gossip. Now, let me just say this up front. If you don't like my message this weekend, then you can go gossip about it to somebody and tell them you don't like it, okay? I mean, that's fine. You can do that if you'd like. But in all seriousness, all of us know somebody who gossips. Now, don't elbow anybody next to you, or don't look over at your neighbor or anything like that. But maybe for some of you recently, you've heard some really good, juicy gossip about somebody. Maybe you've heard it, or maybe for some of you, you would even acknowledge today that you actually have a problem with gossip. That you would say that you find yourselves talking about other people behind their back. Maybe you find yourself gossiping too much. I heard it said this way by Jack Welch. He actually, if you kind of wonder what is gossip, he says that it's when you're talking with somebody about something that you actually can't solve, right? So in other words, if you're having a conversation with somebody about somebody else, and the two of you can't actually solve the problem, that's called gossip, right? And so sometimes, as parents, you might sit down and you might have to talk about one of your kids and how you're going to discipline them. That's not gossip because you can actually solve the problem, right? But sometimes what we love to do is we like to talk about other people behind their back, whether it's true or not true, it doesn't matter, when we cannot actually solve the problem. Whatever the case may be, whether you're here today and you'd say, I struggle with this, or you might say, I don't struggle with it, I think it's rampant. I think it's huge in our culture. It happens all the time. Now, the question then becomes, why do people gossip? Why do you, at times in your life, find yourselves talking about somebody else who's not in the room and saying things to somebody else about somebody that you would never say to their face? Well, actually, Solomon, who's known as the wisest man to ever live, he addressed this. He says, this is why we gossip. He says, the words of a gossip are like a choice morsel. It says they go down to the inmost parts. He says that the reason why we gossip is because when you hear it, it's like something so delicious. It's like a choice morsel. And it's so true that you can be in a normal conversation and somebody all of a sudden says, hey, do you hear about so-and-so? And what do? You go, oh, what? No, what? Tell me. What did they do, right? And it's like as soon as you begin to hear that gossip, it's like a choice morsel. You're like, well, what happened? And does so-and-so know? And did you tell that person? And we should go tell somebody, or we should actually do something about this, right? And it's like a dainty little morsel. It's like you just can't seem to get enough. For me, a great way to illustrate this would be this right here. This is a big bowl of peanut M&Ms. Now, these are like straight from the devil for me, okay? Like, I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but I love peanut M&Ms. And in fact, if I were to eat one of these, and I'm not going to, because if I were to eat one of these, I literally cannot stop. And if you can you relate to that? Like if I take one of these, I mean, I'm not joking. Like, yesterday I was preaching, and when I got done, like, I took a few, and then I took a few more, and then and they're like, hey, Joel, like, we had this thing nice and rounded, and it looked really pretty. I'm like, I don't care. I can't stop. I got to keep eating them, right? And for me, this right here, once I start, I literally can't stop. Like on road trips, I'll get a big old bag of these suckers, and I was like, I'll just have a couple. And all of a sudden, I'm like, where's the rest of them? They're all gone, right? Because once you start, you just can't seem to stop. In fact, right now, because all of you are faithful, you're here in church, how many of you would like some M&Ms? Any of you like some M&Ms? In fact, we're going to have the ushers come forward. They're going to hand you a bag. But here's the key. You can't open it right now, okay? They're going to hand you, just trust me on this. Listen, you're in church, okay? Follow the instructions. You're going to get a bag of peanut M&Ms, and I'm asking you not to open them. I'll give you instructions what to do with them in a moment. But while you're getting your M&Ms, take a look at my boys trying to not eat their candy. Okay. So do you want one of these? Okay, so here's the deal. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to put this gummy bear right here, okay? You can't get out of your chair, all right? You can eat it if you want, but if you don't eat it, if you wait, when I come back, I'll give you 2 of them, okay?
I don't know about this. I won't eat it.
Okay, all right. I'll come back in a minute, okay? You sit there and see if you can wait a few minutes.
Okay. Yum. 1 2 check. 1 2 1 2 check. 1 2 1 2. Hi, I'm Kason. So have you ever been to church? If your name is Miss Karen, if you're in the service, come on up on stage. Thank you.
How'd you do?
Good.
How did you do? Did you not eat them?
Yeah.
You didn't eat them at all? Good. You waited?
Yeah.
You didn't eat it at all?
I did.
Good job, dude. So there's all...
Yeah.
You can eat those. Wait. Or if you wait and don't eat those, when I come back, I'll give you all these too. And you hand all those.
Nah.
You just want to eat those?
Mm-hmm.
Nah. So, true confession time. How many of you have already eaten your bag of peanut M&Ms? Ushers, get him out of the service. He cannot follow instructions. So I was actually pretty impressed with my kids. Other than one lick, they were able to make it through, which I was honestly impressed with. So the question is, can you do it now? And so just like gossip is like a dainty little morsel, here's what I'm going to instruct you to do, is you can open up your bag, and I'm going to ask you to eat just one. And I want you, I know, yeah, life is so rough, right? And so eat just one, and see if you can go the rest of the service without having the rest. Now, at the end, you get to have the rest, but try to just eat one. Now, some of you've already failed, but that's okay. Just keep trying, okay? See if you can do it. And actually, this is exactly how gossip is. This is how gossip works. It's like you begin to hear just a little bit, and you begin to get drawn in to the gossip. You begin to think to yourself, well, really, what did they say? Or can we tell somebody? Or does anybody else know? And you start asking all these questions. I've heard it said this way, that gossip about gossip, that gossip can travel around the world and back before truth can get out of bed and put its pants on, right? That gossip can actually travel all the way around the world and back before the truth can get out of bed and put its pants on. And with social media these days, it's so true. That it just takes one tweet, it just takes one post, it just takes a few shares, and all of a sudden the thing that might not be true or might even be a partial truth about somebody begins to get out to everybody. And the funny thing with gossip is this, and you know that this is true, that the more that it's shared, the further that it actually becomes from the truth. It starts as one thing and ends up like a completely other thing. I don't know if any of you ever played the telephone game in school. Back in the day, I remember playing this game where you would whisper something to your partner and then they'd have to pass it down the line. And so it started as one thing. And by the time it got all the way to the end, about 5 or 6 or 10 people later, it ended up being something completely different, right? And that's exactly how gossip looks like. That all of a sudden you hear something and you begin to share it, and then they share it with somebody, and they share it, and all of a sudden you put little twists on it, and everything, all the truth didn't quite come out, and eventually by the time it gets back to the person, it's so far from the truth. Now, I think sometimes we look on about gossip and we would say to ourselves, well, isn't gossip really childish? Like, isn't that something that middle schoolers do? Like, I'm an adult, Joel. I mean, I don't gossip. I mean, that's something that people do in middle school or maybe in high school or whatever it might be. But I actually believe that this is a current problem with adults as well. And regardless of where you're at, I think when you get stung by gossip, regardless of your age, it hurts. Maybe for some of you, you're here today and you would say that you lost a friendship over gossip. Because somebody shared something with somebody else that you didn't want shared with other people. And at times, I think actually gossip is very difficult for us to see in the mirror. And in fact, you know this is true, that a lot of times, you know what we do as Christians? We disguise gossip as prayer requests, right? I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Like, you know, you're in a group and you're like, hey guys, I think we should pray. I think we should pray for Karen. Really? Why? Well, you guys haven't heard? No. And right, you start going, what happened with her, right? I think we need to pray for Jessica. Real? Why? Well, her and Bill, they've been working kind of late, together, and I don't know. I'm just saying. Bill was telling me he's got some struggles in his marriage, and so I think we should pray for their marriage because I don't think they're really working late unless they're, working late, if you know what I'm saying. And so I just think we should pray for them, right? And we disguise it as if, and you are looking there like you're holy, but this is what we do sometimes as Christians, right? It is we act like it's a prayer request when really we're just gossiping about the person. It's like, what are we doing right there? And we think, well, because it's truth, it's okay. I heard it once said this way, that everything that is said must be true. But not everything that is true must be said, right? So just because something is true does not mean that you have to actually say it, right? Just because something is truth doesn't mean that it actually has to be said. And what we have to realize, all of us, is that those words that you speak, they matter. There's power in them. And when you talk about others behind their back, it's wrong. It's not helpful. And I think here's what you have to ask yourself at the end of the day. What do you want to be known for in your life? Do you want to be known for somebody who speaks life and encouragement into somebody? Do you want to be known for somebody who builds other people up? Or do we want to be known as people who tear others down? Who are always talking behind somebody else's back? Who's always bringing death to that individual? And of course, I think most of us would say, well, we want to be people who build others up. Of course, we want to be people who encourage other people. We want to speak life into other people. Most of us don't necessarily want to hurt somebody or talk negatively about somebody, but gossip, it hurts. And maybe I would say this, maybe it actually hurts more people than you really think. In fact, I'm going to give you three people that I think that gossip hurts. If you have the handout, you can follow along. You can fill in the blank again this week if you'd like. You can pull that out. And I want to give you three types of people that gossip actually hurts. Now, some of these are pretty obvious, but the first one is just this, that gossip hurts the person that it's spoken about. That when you gossip, it hurts the person that it's spoken about. This is what it says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16. It says, a troublemaker plants seeds of strife, and gossip, it separates the best of friends. So this is, of course, the most obvious one. Many of us would say that we can relate to this one, that some of you would say yes, because you've been on the wrong end of gossip, right? And somebody has said something about you, they've talked bad about behind your back, and it's hurt you deeply. Maybe for some of you, you've lost a friendship over gossip. Some of you, you're here today, and you haven't spoken to a family member in years because of gossip. Maybe for some of you, young people, it seems so minor at the time, but you had a crush on somebody and you told a friend and they went and told the person that you had a crush on and they found out, and that just little conversation, it actually wounded you, not so much that the person maybe didn't even like you, but the fact that you felt betrayed in this person talking behind your back. Maybe you confided in somebody about an addiction that you're facing these days, and they went and they shared it with somebody else, and because of that, it's actually set you back in your addiction. Maybe you shared with somebody about a failure that's happening in your marriage, or maybe a struggle in your marriage, and they shared it with somebody else as a prayer request, and that got back to your spouse. And because of that, it's ruined your relationship with that person. See, if you've ever been on the other end of being gossiped about, I understand the pain, because all of us have been there, and it hurts. It hurts when someone speaks negative words. It hurts when somebody says something. I've been there, you've been there, we've all been there, where we've experienced this idea of somebody talking negatively about us. And so gossip, it hurts the person that is spoken about. But secondly, I would say this, that gossip not only hurts the person that is spoken about, but gossip hurts the listener as well. This is what it says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 17. It says, wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip. Liars, they pay close attention to slander. Some of you, I think you hear this and you're thinking, wait, did I hear that right? Like the listener, why would the listener, why would it hurt them? I think you could say it this way, that if you listen to gossip, you're wrong. That if you choose to just listen, you're wrong. And don't think for a moment that once you stop listening to them, they won't go and talk about you behind your back. See, sometimes I think we think to ourselves, well, I'm not participating in gossip. I'm not speaking gossip to somebody else. In fact, we would justify listening to gossip as we're just being a friend, right? I didn't say anything. I just listened to what they were saying. I wasn't really, engaging in it. And that's fine. But according to God's word, which as a follower of Jesus, we should try to live by, it's wrong. It's wrong to even listen to gossip. See, I think of all the points I'm going to make today, this one's going to speak to most of us. Because for a lot of you here, you would say, I don't really think I gossip that much. Or, I understand maybe I say things and later I go, I should not have said that. I really should pull that back. I get that. You would say you don't find yourself gossiping a lot. But I think for most of us in this room, we listen to it. We don't stop it. When someone says something negatively about somebody else, we don't stop the conversation and we just listen. And we, of course, would say, well, I'm just listening, or I'm not really saying yes or no, or I'm not really approving or disapproving of it. And according to Solomon, he is saying this, that when you listen to gossip, you are just as bad. You're wrong. It's not healthy. Finally, I would say this, that not only does gossip hurt the person that you're speaking about, it hurts the listener, but gossip actually hurts the speaker. So when you speak gossip, it is actually hurting you. Listen to what this says in the book of Proverbs. It says, when arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret, okay? He says, others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. He says this, that when you choose to gossip, you could spend your entire life, this is powerful, building a good reputation, and you begin to say one word of gossip, and you can never regain it again. Think about it. At the end of the day, when you hear somebody else speaking gossip, you don't think to yourself, I really want to be like that person. When you hear somebody else slandering somebody or putting somebody down, you don't think, man, I would love to one day grow up to be like them. You don't say to yourself, I want to tear other people down. I want to talk behind people's back. Like, those are my life goals, right? None of us say those types of things. That isn't what we think at all. But if you're like me, I think, I wonder actually what they say about me behind my back, right? I mean, that's kind of the words I think. When I hear somebody else saying something negative about somebody else, did you hear about so-and-so? I actually think to myself, I wonder if they do that about me. Like, I wonder if they talk about me like that behind my back. And I better be careful about what I say, right? See, we don't think somebody who gossips is a great person. In fact, I would say this, that when you gossip, it says a whole lot more about you than it does about the person that you're talking about. So you could be talking about somebody who cheated on their spouse and saying, did you hear about so-and-so? And I'm not, approving the idea of cheating on your spouse, but do you realize that when you gossip, you are just as bad as that person? No one's saying amen to that, right? I mean, we don't like that. But it's truth. It's truth. We don't need to invent things with our small minds and share them with our big mouths. That's not how God called us to be. Gossip hurts the person that's spoken about. Gossip hurts the listener. And gossip hurts the speaker. In the end, I think you could say it this way, gossip hurts everybody. Gossip hurts everybody. So if gossip really does hurt everybody, then the goal would be pretty simple, right? Like, if it's infectious in so many ways, first in the way that it hurts the people that you're speaking about, and also it hurts the listener, and it hurts me as a speaker of gossip, if that's really the case, I think we could all conclude, well, let's just not gossip, right? There we go. Let's pray. Let's leave. Let's just not do it, right? I mean, that would be the conclusion to it, but if only it were that easy. So how do we not gossip? How do we choose as followers of Jesus not to choose to engage in not only speaking gossip, but also listening to gossip? So if you're taking notes, I'm going to give you two things. I think these are pretty practical things that you can do, but yet, let me just tell you up front, these are hard. In fact, I'll make a prediction. Most of you probably won't do these. How's that for encouraging, right? And here's why, because they are unbelievably difficult things to do. They're so practical and they're actually easy, but yet at the same time they're difficult, if that even makes sense whatsoever, okay? So regardless of where you're at in your life, whether you're hearing gossip, finding yourself speaking about gossip, I want to give you two things that I think we need to do in order to remove gossip and not infect people. And the first one is this, is that you have to learn to guard your ears. Too many of us, we go through our lives and we listen to gossip. Too many of us allow other people to talk negatively about other people, and we never stand up to the person speaking gossip. Too many of us. You find this all the time in young people. You find this in adults. You find this all the time about people speaking negatively. In fact, all of you can think of a time in the last week where somebody else has come to you, said negative words about somebody else that could even be true. It doesn't matter. And you listened to them, and you didn't defend that person. That's wrong. And I think the number one thing we have to learn to do as followers of Jesus, if we want to end gossip, is that we need to learn to guard our ears. So how do you guard your ears? I'm going to give you a question today that will allow you to guard your ears. So when somebody is speaking gossip to you, remember, again, it hurts the listener. You're just as bad. That there's a question that you can ask them, a simple question that will begin to guard your ears. And the question is just this: why are you telling me this? Try that this week. Somebody walks up to you and says, hey, did you hear about Jerry? Did you hear what he did? And they begin to tell me all about what Jerry did and the things that he did. Just look at the person and say to them, hey, can I ask you, why are you telling me this? Now, you don't have to get sassy with them. You have to go, why are you telling me this? You're a jerk, right? But actually, studies show us this, that when you ask that simple question to somebody, when they're speaking about somebody else, you guarding your ears, when you simply say, why are you telling this? It causes the person to stop, to take a mental inventory as to why they're sharing it. And actually, studies show us this, that it keeps that person from gossiping. It stops them in their tracks. It's a great question to ask. And I know some of you would say, so I could never say that. Like, why are you telling me that? It just seems too aggressive for me. It seems like too intense. So I'm going to give you maybe an easier way to say the same thing. Another way you could say it is just like this. Hey, have you had a chance to talk to so-and-so about that? So in other words, if somebody comes to me and begins to gossip about Jerry, I could say, hey, have you had a chance to go talk to Jerry about that? And I would tell you this, probably 10 out of 10 times, they're going to go, well, no. And then that's a great opportunity to say, well, maybe you should go to Jerry and share that with him, right? Maybe if you have a problem with him, you need to go to him. That is the right thing to do. It's a great time to say that that's an opportunity for you to resolve the problem. Now, if some of you are going like, where does that come from? This was actually Jesus' idea. This is actually how he says we should resolve conflict. He says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. He doesn't say that if somebody does something wrong or you don't like something somebody does, if you don't like what your teacher says, if you don't like what your boss says, if you don't like what your mom says, if you don't like what your friend says, that you should go and tell your brother or your other friend or this person or that person. He says, no, I want you to go to that person just between the two of you. And if they listen to you, he says this, that you've actually won them over. Jesus says that the way that you should resolve conflict is a fascinating idea. You actually go to the person that you have a conflict with. And yet for so many of us, we refuse to do this. He says that you should try to resolve the problem by actually going to them. And can I just say that just because this idea, even though it's right, I think it's difficult for us to do. Because for a lot of us, actually, probably at the end of the day, we don't even necessarily want to resolve the problem, or we're not even a part of the problem. We just want to talk about the person. We find ourselves looking at the M&Ms and smelling them. Smells really good, by the way. I like blue the best. Someone said, you should eat one of those and then try it. And I can't. I literally cannot do it, right? Because gossip is like a dainty little morsel that you begin to take one and then you can't get enough and you want another one and you want another one and you want another one. And we love to talk about people, but we're afraid to actually have conflict resolution. We're afraid to approach people. And if you aren't willing to go to the person, then I would just encourage you shouldn't be talking about them. And when somebody else comes to you and begins to speak gossip, you need to say to them, hey, why are you telling me this? Or have you had an opportunity to go to that person and talk to them? Because if they're unwilling to do that, then that's gossip and it's wrong. And if you listen to it, if you're not guarding your ears, you are just as bad as that person. And sometimes, of course, when you do that, when you try to guard your ears and you tell them they should go talk to that person about it, they're going to continue to gossip. And you're like, Joel, I don't know what I should do besides find a new friend, which some of you need to do that, okay? If someone's just continually gossiping, you just might need a new friend. But after that, the second thing that I would encourage you to do is after you guard your ears is just to learn to close your mouth. Right? Some of you haven't been able to close your mouth with your M&Ms. Like you took one and you're just like, oh, it's so... how are you guys doing, by the way? Anybody eat the whole bag? Yeah, be honest. Some of you, thank you for being honest. Okay. You know what? It's okay. We can't all be perfect in here. It's all right. But that's how it is, right? It's like you take one and then you want another one. And I think that the next thing that we need to do is not only guarding our ears, but just learning to close your mouth. This is what it says in the book of Proverbs. It says this. He says, watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. He says, if you can learn to watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut, and then you will stay out of trouble. Some of you husbands need to write this verse down, okay? Like that's all you need to know today, and you can leave and you'd be happy in life, right? Because you know that this is true, that sometimes our words, the things that we say, they impact other people. And isn't it so true that yes, you can guard your ears, but at times, you know what else we need to do is we need to learn, close our mouths. Somebody spits something really juicy out, and you have the urge to join in and say, really? Tell me more. That I think we have to learn to close our mouths and not say anything at all. When you find yourself feeling like, man, I need to share this, I think you should ask yourself this question: would I want someone sharing similar information about me if I wasn't present and in the room? Would I really want somebody else sharing the same kind of information about me if I did not know they're sharing it? Again, that's a principle that Jesus teaches us. I mean, it's amazing the things that he teaches us. He says this: do to others as you would like them to do to you. In other words, if you wouldn't want somebody sharing that about you, then why are we sharing it about them? He says that we should treat other people the same way, and he teaches us to do to them as the way that you want it done to you. And none of us want nasty words said about us. And when we ask these types of questions, I think what we can learn to do is we can learn to kill gossip. So what do? We guard our ears and we close our mouths. Now, I want to just share with you guys a story real quick that kind of illustrates this. So oftentimes as I'm studying, putting together these messages, I sometimes will go to a coffee shop just to get away from everything, put headphones in, and I actually don't even play any music. I just put headphones in so no one bothers me, and I just, so if you ever see me in a coffee shop, I'm not listening to anything, but I just put headphones in, and I just work on my message and just try to think and study and do the things I need to do. And I'm at a Starbucks kind of near a place where I work, and I'm sitting there, and I'm studying, and I look up, and I see a person who I went to college with, and she's sitting kind of over on the other side, and so this girl's story goes that she, all through college, was dating one of my really good friends, and they got engaged to get married. And right before they got married, she broke things off, and she actually ended up marrying a different guy, okay? Whatever, things happen in life. And so as I look up and I see her, I notice that she's not with her husband, but she's actually with the person that she was dating before. And they're sitting pretty darn close. And it doesn't end there, because then her husband comes into the store, like opens up the door, comes flying in the store, and I'm telling you, it got so heated. Like, they started yelling, and they started screaming at each other, and I have to tell all of you, I just made up that entire story. But some of you should have seen your faces. You were going, really? Really? They did what? Some of you are on your phones texting people about the different things, and you know that it was like a dainty little morsel. Some of you are like, oh my gosh, really? Where's the popcorn? This is a great story, right? Some of you should have asked me the question, why are you telling me this? Have you had a chance to go to so-and-so about this? See, this is the problem in our culture. Here's the problem with gossip. Honestly, the problem with gossip, the problem with complaining, the problem with lying is that all the things that we've talked about in this series, it's not really the words that we speak. It's really a heart problem. Because Jesus said it this way. He says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. I mean, seriously, when we are listening to gossip, here's what begins to happen. It's like a dainty little morsel. It's like an M&M that we stick in our mouth, that we sink into, and it's like we want more and more and more. Because some of you can relate to this, because as I'm telling that story just a moment ago, you should have seen some of your faces. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, she's busted. Yeah, that's awesome, right? And some of you are texting your friends. You're texting your friends again now saying the pastor lied in church. It was a fake news. Don't put it on, don't put it on. And we can laugh about it. We can think it's funny. But the reason we think it's funny, because this is exactly how we act in our life sometimes. Some of you had no problem with me telling that little story. Like, you were like, oh, really? Wow, that's intense. Really? You saw that? That's crazy, right? No, it's gossip. See, I would actually say it this way. Gossip claims I'm strong because they are weak. But Jesus proclaims that I am weak. He is strong. See, gossip proclaims, when you gossip, it actually proclaims this. You think that you're strong and that other people are actually weak. In other words, we gossip because if I can take a moment and I can talk about your lack of fashion, if I can take a moment and talk about the failures that you have in your marriage, If I can take a moment and I can talk about how poor of a job that you did at something, if I can take a moment and talk about your addiction to porn, if I can take a moment and talk about how you failed that test, if I can take a moment and talk about all of your lack and your disabilities in life, then I don't have to talk about mine. See, gossip claims this. Gossip claims that I am strong because you are weak. In other words, I'm going to build myself up to tear you down. And if I can talk about you for a moment and what you struggle in, then I don't have to look at my own struggles in life. And if I can just push somebody down, if I can just step over them a little, just to make me look a little bit better, because gossip claims that I am strong and you are weak. But then Jesus comes along, and if you're a follower of Jesus, he says, no, I'm going to mix this whole idea up. He says, I want to turn it around. He says, actually, you are the weak one, but he makes you strong. Because out of the overflow of the heart, he says, the mouth will speak. And when you recognize who you are as a follower of Jesus and whose you are, it changes your heart. And you realize that you are fearfully and that you're wonderfully made. You know that you are God's workmanship, created to do good works, that he started something amazing in you, and that you got to carry it out until it's completed. And you know that you're created with a purpose, a plan in life. And in the knowledge of my weakness, in the knowledge of me understanding that I don't have it all together, that I fail over and over and over again, I'm made strong in what God has done for me. And in all of that, that's where I think our heart begins to be transformed. And when your heart begins to be transformed, you realize that I don't have to put people down to feel good enough about myself. I don't need to slam you down to make me look a little bit better. I don't need to gossip about you to feel known and to feel loved. See, I'm not known by what people say about me. I'm not known about what I put on social media or what the world says about me, but rather about what God says about me. And when God has your heart, he has your words as well. And I move from gossip, speaking life, speaking truth and love to people, because I don't need to be better than you. You don't need to be better than me. I just need to help point people to the person who's made me better, and that is Jesus. See, I don't have to be any better than any of you. My job is to help point people to the person who's made me better. And the only person who's made me better is not in my own abilities, not in my own successes. It is in what God has done inside of me. I want to give you an example. For real, this is a real story this time. As far as how your words, they can change people's hearts. They can impact people for the positive, or they can impact people for the negative. So several months ago, I was driving on the expressway, and I was coming to one of those places where two expressways actually were coming together. It was up in Grand Rapids, and I needed to get I was on this one over here, and so they're coming together, and I needed to get all the way over to this side on the expressway. And it was raining pretty hard, and it was, kind of messy out. And so as I'm looking to get over like 3 lanes really quick, I did everything I knew to do. I looked at my rearview mirror, looked at my side mirror, checked my blind spot, and I moved over slowly and got into the lane. I got off to the stoplight. And as I got up to the stoplight, a truck pulled up beside me, but he was really, really close to me. And he rolled his window down, and he was not telling me how much Jesus loved me by any means. He was sharing with me a lot of 4-letter words. And I couldn't hear everything. And so I don't know even why he did this, but I rolled my window down because I really did not know what he was saying to me at first. But I rolled my window down, and I instantly realized that he was really, really mad at me. Like, you beep, beep. Lots of words I can't repeat, of course, right? And he's swearing at me, and he's yelling at me. And I finally just said, I had no clue what I had done. So I said, wait, what did I do? And he said, you cut me off, you did. And, went off of me. And I looked at him, I said, oh my gosh. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I really had no clue that I cut you off. And I actually said, these are really the words I said to him. I said, will you forgive me? I don't even know why I said that. He's probably because he was really big and I was afraid he was going to hurt me. And I said, will you forgive me? And he looks over at me and he goes, no, you did. And just starts cussing at me again and yelling and screaming and da-da-da. And so I said, you know what? I said, I'm dead serious. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm so sorry that I did that. I said, you're right. It was completely my fault. I said, is there any way that you would just forgive me? And I'm not joking. He looks at me and goes, ugh! And he rolls his window up and just takes off. Like he was like so mad. Like it was like he wanted to fight me, right? And you know that this is true. That when you speak life to people, when you begin to speak positive words to people, it can change their entire outcome. When you point people to Jesus in your words, when you're just kind to people, when you just own up to your mistakes, all of a sudden it begins to change their hearts. Your words matter. Speak life. The Bible says to encourage one another daily, that you are God's vessel, that you're used to God to speak life and truth into people. So what if, my challenge to you as we close out this series is just pretty simple. What if this week, what if you got caught not gossiping? But what if you got caught actually encouraging somebody? So it could look like this. Hey, did you hear what John said about you? What did John say about me? He said that you are one of the greatest young leaders he has ever worked with. He says that you have an incredible ability in your life to look at you and go, really? Hey, did you hear what Jessica said about you? What did Jessica say about me? She said that you were so pretty. Really? She said I was pretty? Yeah. Hey, did you hear what Rob said about you? They said that the way that you serve other people is so amazing. The way that you just help other people, it inspired them to begin to serve as well. What if this week, I'm just going to give you a challenge. What if instead of getting caught gossiping, what if we got caught actually encouraging somebody this week? What if we got caught going up to somebody and saying, did you hear what so-and-so said about you? That you are incredible, that you are amazing, that you are doing so good at that thing, that you are just inspiring other people. Because your words have power. Because gossip claims that I am strong because they are weak. But Jesus proclaims that I am weak because he is strong. Would you bow your heads with me and close your eyes just for the sake of everybody in the room? Maybe you're here today and you would say, Joel, I understand that I shouldn't be speaking gossip, but the reality for you about this idea of Jesus making you strong is the first step is that you have to fully give your life to him. And maybe for some of you, you're here today and you'd say you've never made a decision to follow Christ. You've never made a decision to step across that line. Or maybe for some of you, you're here today and you'd say at one point in your life, you did make that decision. But the reality is you've wandered away. And maybe God is asking you today to rededicate your life to him, to give your life back to him fully. My promise to you is I'm not going to make you stand up. I'm not going to make you come down front, but I'd love to pray with you right where you're seated. If that's you today and you'd say, Joel, I want to give my life to Christ for the first time, or I want to rededicate my life, would you just raise your hand and make eye contact with me? I'd love to pray with you right where you're at, if that's you. Okay, all the way back in the back. Anybody else? Say, that's me. All right, awesome. Anybody else feel like God's asking them to do this? Just raise your hand, make eye contact with me. I'd love to pray with you right where you're seated. That's you. What are those of you who raise your hand, and even if you're here today and you say, I was too afraid to raise my hand, it's not about a raise of a hand, it's about a relationship with Christ. The Bible says that we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, that we've all missed the mark, we've all failed. But the beautiful news is this, is that Jesus came, he paid the ultimate price. He died on a cross so that we could spend eternity with him. And that's what makes us strong. And so this is something I can't pray for you. I can't do it for you. But if that's you and you want to make that decision, if you raise your hand or even if you didn't raise your hand, you just go to God in the quietness of your heart and just say, God, I know that I'm a sinner. And God, right now I'm asking that you forgive me of my sins, that you come into my life, that you be the Lord of my life. Maybe you just want to say, God, I want to rededicate my life to you. I'm giving my life back to you. I want to follow you. Help me to encourage people this week, not to gossip about them. And Father, I just want to give my life to you. And Jesus, we thank you so much for the people who made decisions today, who stepped across that line to say that they want to give their life to you, whether it's for the first time or whether they're rededicating. God, we are so excited. And as a church, God, we say yay, God, and we celebrate those decisions because they're amazing. Thank you. Hey, if you made a decision today, we have a book that we'd love to give you. It's called 7 Basics. It's a great book just about kind of beginning your journey with Christ. And I would encourage you to pick it up. You can get it at your next step. They're actually hanging on the wall as you leave. Or you could text this number, TBC Next, to 77948, and we will send you a book in the mail. You guys have a blessed week. You can eat your M&Ms. Those of you who made it, great job. I'm going to eat M&Ms as well. Have a great week.